In the first decade of the 5th century BC, the Persian Empire is experiencing a revolt by its Greek subjects in Asia. But at the same time, the mainland Greek states are preoccupied with their own internal conflicts. Most of the Peloponnesian Peninsula is controlled by Sparta and its allies. But the city-state of Argos stands in the way of the Spartans establishing a complete hegemony over the region. The state of Lacedaemon decides to launch a war against Argos, and Cleomenes, one of the two Spartan kings, is chosen to lead the campaign. Argos once controlled a much larger territory, but centuries of war against Sparta significantly reduced its influence. But the city remains the arch-enemy of the Spartans. The symbol of the city-state is a wolf. The Spartan army marches towards Argos, but it unexpectedly stops at the river Erysinos before reaching its target. The ancient Greeks thought that this river originated at the lake of Stympalos, where it enters a subterranean channel and re-emerges near Argos. The Spartans receive bad omens about crossing the river. So they retreat to Tyria, where they start preparing to invade by sea instead. The Spartans then cross over to the cities of Tiryns and Nauplia on the other side of the Gulf. The army of Argos comes out to meet the Spartans at a place called Sepeia. The Spartan king misleads the army of Argos about when he is going to attack, so he easily defeats them in a surprise attack at Sepeia. Cleomenes then burns down the sacred groves where the survivors from Argos fled after the battle, killing everyone trapped there. Argos suffers more than 6,000 casualties, an unprecedented loss that was achieved through deception and not in a conventional hoplite battle. The city of Argos prepares for a siege. Since most of its adult male citizens died in the battle, the defense is led by the women of the city. But Cleomenes first goes to the famous temple of Hera to make sacrifices. He commits another sacrilege by taking over the temple by force. But the signs he receives there cause him to abandon any plans to besiege the city of Argos. So Argos itself isn't captured. But the city experiences a revolution, as the lower classes take over after the battle has wiped out an entire generation of its citizens. Furthermore, Argos loses Tiryns and Mycenae, and these cities become allies of Sparta. Argos also ends up losing its main port at Nauplia. The ships for the Spartan invasion of Argos were provided by Sicyon and Aegina, and because of this, Argos demands reparations from them. The city-state of Sicyon negotiates a settlement with Argos and pays a substantial sum to make amends. But the island of Aegina is more stubborn and refuses to acknowledge any wrongdoing, a decision that they are going to regret later. All these states are Dorian Greeks, and they often support each other based on this shared ethnic identity, but their loyalties are divided between Argos and Sparta. Meanwhile, the Persian Empire defeated the Greek cities that rebelled against it, and even captured some new territories. The Persian king then sends heralds to the remaining independent Greek states, demanding submission from them. Athens and Sparta reject the Persian demands and execute the Persian envoys. But the island of Aegina accepts the Persian demands. This enrages the Athenians, who ask Sparta to intervene. The Spartan king Cleomenes is sent over to Aegina to arrest the leaders of the city that supported the Persians, but he is unable to fulfill his mission there. Meanwhile at Sparta, the other king, Demaratos, is plotting to overthrow his co-ruler while Cleomenes is away. Sparta had a unique system of dual monarchy, where two branches of the royal bloodline, the Agiads and the Eurypontides, each had their own king simultaneously, and the two kings were often rivals. Cleomenes responds by traveling to Delphi and bribing the oracle there to declare that his co-ruler, Demaratos, wasn't really a biological son of the previous king. At Sparta, Demaratos is removed from office when his illegitimacy is revealed. Demaratos then flees from Sparta, traveling through the region of Elis to the island of Zakynthos, then later he defects to the Persians in Asia. The Spartans elect a new king, Leotychidas, to take the place of their deposed ruler. The two Spartan kings then travel to Aegina, and this time, they successfully depose the Persia-friendly leaders of the island. The arrested leaders of Aegina are handed over to Athens. But in Sparta, Cleomenes gets into trouble when it's revealed that he bribed the oracle of Delphi to defame Demaratos. Cleomenes then flees to the Arcadia region and tries to incite a revolt there. He wants the Arcadian leaders to pledge allegiance to him at the river Styx of the city of Nanakris, a town near Penos, because the river here resembled the entrance of the underworld. This rebellion alarms the Spartans so much that Cleomenes is called back to stay as king, but he soon loses his mind, then commits suicide in prison. Therefore, on the eve of the first Persian invasion, Sparta lost both of its kings who had been ruling it for decades. And the Spartans were also dealing with a Helot uprising in Messenia. Leonidas is chosen to succeed Cleomenes on the throne. Leonidas is a half-brother of the previous king, Cleomenes, and he is also married to his daughter Gorgo. Leonidas is going to become the hero of the Battle of Thermopylae a decade after the current events. The original heir to the throne was Dorieus, and he was considered the most promising one of the four brothers. But Dorieus resented that Cleomenes became king instead of him, and he moved to Sicily to try to assert himself there. Here Dorieus founded a city called Heraclea at Eryx, in the territory of the native Sicilians. But the natives from Segesta tried to expel him from their land. Allied with the Carthaginian colonies of Sicily, Segesta was able to take over his city and kill Dorieus. The foundation of Heraclea challenged the dominance of Carthage in the region, and the powerful city couldn't tolerate a rival on Sicily. Meanwhile, the Persians launched their first invasion of Greece and capture some of the Greek islands. But the Persian advance into Greece is stopped by Athens at the Battle of Marathon. The Athenians become the first Greeks to defeat the Persians, and the victory marks the beginning of the golden age of Athenian democracy. But the Persians destroy the city-state of Eretria, which has been the leading sea power of Greece up to this point. The rising sea power that takes its place is Aegina, a rich island that has a bigger fleet than the neighboring Athens at this time. But the pro-Persian leaders of Aegina are still imprisoned at Athens, where the Spartan king left them after their arrest. Aegina demands the release of its captured leaders, but Athens refuses to hand them over. So Aegina asks the Spartans to intervene, and the Spartan king Leotychidas is dispatched to go to Athens on behalf of Aegina to get their leaders released, but he fails to persuade the Athenians to release them. When the diplomatic solutions fail, Aegina decides to retaliate by kidnapping some of Athens' political leaders. The Athenians send a delegation by ship to one of their religious festivals held at Sunion. Aegina intercepts the ship that carries many of the leading men of Athens and imprisons them. After the kidnapping, the conflict between Athens and Aegina turns into an outright war. But the Athenians don't have enough ships to win a sea fight against Aegina. The city-state of Corinthos helps out Athens by giving them 20 ships as a gift, creating a combined fleet of 70 vessels. Meanwhile, the pro-Athenian populist factions stage a coup in Aegina and wait for the Athenians to send help. The Athenian fleet of 70 ships sails to Aegina to support the uprising, but they arrive a day too late, and the oligarchy of Aegina crushes the popular uprising, executing 700 of the rebels. The leaders of the coup have to flee Aegina, and the Athenians resettle them at Sunion. But in a subsequent sea battle, the Athenian fleet is able to defeat Aegina. Aegina then requests help from Argos, a fellow Dorian city. But Argos is still upset that Aegina provided ships for the Spartan invasion against them a few years earlier, and never paid reparations for it. Nevertheless, 1,000 volunteers from Argos join the fight against Athens, and most of them never return. Aegina is eventually able to repel the Athenian fleet, and captures 4 of their ships in a battle. The war between Athens and Aegina drags on for years, and only ends when the two factions have to unite against the resurgent threat from the Persian Empire. In 483 BC, the Athenians discover new silver mines at Lauraion, and the revenues from the mines are used to build new ships for the navy. This is thanks to Themistocles, the Athenian politician who campaigned for creating a stronger navy against Aegina. And without these ships, the Athenians wouldn't have been able to defeat the Persians 3 years later. While Athens and Aegina are waging a war, the Persian Empire is preparing for its second invasion of Greece, led by the new Persian king, Xerxes.